In this video, I look at the championship mode in AMS 2 and try to see if it's a decent alternative to the current lack of an actual career mode, and all from an older gamer's perspective. Just before I dive into this week's video, I wanted to say a huge thank you to all those who have liked, commented and subscribed to my channel. I really do enjoy chatting with you all via the comments, and over the Christmas period, with all your help, this channel reached the 500 subscriber mark, with some of the videos having been watched many thousands of times. And to be honest, both figures boggle my mind. So thank you for all your support. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do, as it helps the channel grow and it puts a smile on my face every time someone new presses the subscribe button. That being said, on with the video. In a recent communication, Riser laid out some of their plans for the future of AMS2, which includes lots of exciting new features that will be delivered soonish. In fact, some new features have already been released and covered by Ben on his channel. Link below. However, the much coveted career mode for AMS2 is not expected to be released any sooner than 2025. Which feels like a long way off as we just slide into the first week of 2024. But it is what it is. And in the comments of my recent review of AMS2, where I lamented the lack of a career mode, some suggested the built-in championship feature as a decent, if somewhat limited, alternative to career mode. So how easy is it to use championship mode, and does it sedate the rampant need I have in my loins for the missing career mode? Setting up a championship. Setting up a championship in AMS2 is pretty straightforward. In fact, once you enter the championship section of the interface, then click on New, you can pick from any number of preset championship series that are already set up for you. There is a lot to choose from here, and to load one in, you just select it, and just like that, you are racing in a championship series. Easy. But there is bound to be a race series that you love, but is not here, so what do you do then? Well, fortunately, there is an easy, albeit time-intensive way of replicating any race season, either upcoming or from the past. To demonstrate this feature, I am going to try and replicate the 2023 GT4 European Series as much as I can. There are some tracks that are not in AMS2, so I will need to fudge it a bit. You'll see what I mean a little later. In order to get this up and running, you first click the New button, then select one of the default custom championships at the top of the list. Once the series loads, click on the Edit button in the lower right of the window. On the next screen, click directly on the name and rename this to something more memorable. Here I am going to call it 2023 GT4 European Series. Click Continue to save this. AMS2 doesn't have all the tracks needed to recreate the 2023 season. Tragically, Paul Ricard Circuit in France is missing, but I can fudge it a little to keep the spirit of this idea alive. Kind of. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. So now I'm going to select the vehicle class and click on Clear All to remove any other class of cars that were already stored in this location. And then I will pick the type of car that I do want to be in this series. I picked the GT4, which will include all the different models that are in this class, not just the one that I picked to drive. Below this, I set the number of cars I want to race. The opening round of European GT4 series in 2023 featured an amazing 60 car lineup. I think 50 of them finished, but I'm not sure my computer can cope with 60 cars, so instead I'm going to settle for a modest 29 car lineup plus one, making it a 30 car race. Next, I need to set up the point system that will be awarded at the end of each race by clicking Score Type, then choosing whatever is relevant to the series that I'm following. I want to replicate the GT4 European Series, the score system from that, so I picked this one, the top 10 option number 1. This gives the same points as in the actual GT4 European Series. After that, you can decide on refueling rules, which I put down as a no because the race I am setting up will be short enough that this is not needed. With that in place, it's time to add the actual tracks, which is a bit of a laborious process, but Fortunately, once you have one race set up, AMS2 will copy and paste most of those settings into tracks that you add afterwards. That being said, make sure you get the first track set up with the correct details. Otherwise, you have to correct all of the tracks, and that is not fun. From the 2023 season, the first track of the GT4 European Series was Monza, and you'll find it easier to find this by first sorting by country, and then you can select the track that you want. There are a few choices of this track, and I went with this one, as I think this is the one used by the GT4 series. Let me know if I'm wrong below in the comment section. With the track set, it's time to set up all the race specification, remembering that these will be mostly copied and pasted into the next tracks that you pick. So try to get this as accurate as possible. Click anywhere in the track details and this will bring up the customization for that race. I tend to set practice and qualification to shorter than real life as I want to get on with the race, but you can edit these as you see fit. I also set the weather to be random, only one type, as I don't mind variation, but I don't want to see too much variation in such a short practice or qualification time. Don't forget to hit save before you exit this screen, otherwise your choices can be lost. Next, I need to change the duration type to laps and set the number of laps to 20. Then I'm going to alter the date because I am a nerd and I want to have the actual date raced for this track in 2023. You don't need to worry about this if you don't want to. Weather I changed here and went for 2 random weather events during the entirety of the race. And I set the start type to rolling and of course formation. Once that's done, I did the same for race number 2. With the GT4s, they tend to have 2 races, one on one day and one on the next. Unfortunately, I can't alter the race date inside this interface, so both races appear on the same day. That's okay. It's a minor detail and I don't worry about it too much. Once start type and weather has been set for race 2, I go back to the main screen. I can now safely add the other tracks in the series, and AMS2 will copy across my chosen criteria and add it to any additional tracks that I place in this screen. To add a new track, I just click on the Add New Round button and a duplication of the race will appear, but with a new date. Again, because I'm a nerd, I've gone in and changed this date to reflect the 2023 European GT4 series, but left everything else as set in the previous round. The Paul Richard track in France is not in AMS2, as I mentioned earlier, so I went with Le Mans circuit. Probably overkill, but I wanted something French, and this was the only one I fancied from the options available. If you can think of a better one in AMS2, let me know in the comments below. As you can see here, the settings for practice, qualification, race, including weather, have been copied across from the first race I set up, which is very cool. From here on, you can set up the rest of the season, adding any further races to the series, fudging tracks that are not in AMS2 with those perhaps that are in the same country. The choice is yours, so long as you end up with a nice rounded series. Now, this is an important bit of advice. Once you have everything set up as you need it to be, make sure you hit the save button, not the back button. Don't even accidentally hit the back button, because if you do, all your work will be lost. All those track selections you made, all those alterations you've done, gone forever, which is very, very sad. This part of the interface really needs a "Are you sure?" confirmation box. But it is what it is, so please don't forget to save. Racing a championship. Now that a series is set up, you can actually go racing. First choosing the car you want, in this case I chose the McLaren 570S, and then hitting the start button to load in the first race in the series. Once inside this area of the game, you can see the cars you are racing against, with any points they might have accrued in previous races if you've done any, and the circuit you are about to race on. It's also possible to tweak the AI skill level here and their aggression levels before you hit start and enter the practice session. Once you have completed practice and qualification, the race will start with you on the grid in the place you deserve. which for me was actually third place on the grid. Not that I hung on to it for very long, as once the rolling start had finished, 2 cars piled straight past me, one across the grass there. I'm not even really sure that's allowed, but he did it anyway. But as we came into this race, I was then effectively in 5th place, and we hadn't even completed the first lap. It was a bit of a learning curve for me, really. I also found that for some reason I only had 21 cars on the track, not the 30 that I specified. I'm not quite sure what went on there, whether I didn't click save at the appropriate place, but it's something that I'll have to go in and see if I can re-edit for the rest of the season, or to see if I'm actually stuck with those totals for the rest of all of the races, which would be a shame, really. Although it has to be said, I mean, I do race in VR, so it does stress my system quite a lot, but I was getting a little bit of sporadic performance on the day when racing this first race, so perhaps it was a good idea to only have 21 cars. As we come across this corner here coming into the home straight, I managed to get a good draft on this BMW as we came down, and I felt pretty confident. I was sniffing an exhaust pipe like you wouldn't believe, but it gave me the draft I needed to just edge past him as we came up onto the first chicane. You've got to be careful of this chicane. It is really difficult to get to. Basically have to come to a standstill to get around it. But yeah, I got through. I got a bit of a nudge as I came in from the BMW behind me there, but I survived it, which left me chasing the Porsche. If I could get past him, then I could regain my 3rd place. It was about half a lap later, or into lap 3, that I managed to come up quickly as we came into this second chicane that is on this track, and I just about got past him. I could see him in my mirrors and everything like that, and he was desperate to regain that place, but I managed to hold on to it for as long as possible before he finally came past me again, just as we got to this corner here. He was a very aggressive driver. I was really impressed with the AI and how that performed in this particular race. Really going for it, but I managed to get back on that corner. For some reason the AI wasn't particularly good at that corner. I did most of my overtakes there, but I managed to get past him. I regained 3rd place. I was back where I started at the start of the race, and I had the 2 cars in front of me still to catch. Unfortunately, as I was enjoying my victory of coming past the Porsche and the BMW and regaining my 3rd place, we came into this second, I guess, tricky chicane, and I hit the curb, which was enough to put me into the gravel, and all of the cars whisked past me, and I ended up, I think, in like 8th place. I rudely came on the track there. It was a very poor re-entry into the track, but I think I was really just totally naffed off with gaining the 3rd place back and then finding that I'd completely lost it again. But here we are. I'm working my way back up the track again, trying to overtake all these people. Managed to get past that car there. And then a little while later, I managed to get past this one. And then a lap further on, I managed to get another one past me to put me into 5th place now. So again, I had the Porsche and the BMW in front of me again to catch and overtake. Here I am overtaking the Porsche again. And then here I am chasing the BMW again. And again, on this bend that the AI is not particularly good at, I managed to get past him and swept down the home straight towards the first chicane. This McLaren really does move. I'm really impressed with this car. It sticks to the track like glue, and unless I do something very stupid, it mostly behaves itself. Speaking of which, here I am at that horrible chicane again, and I don't know what happened there, but I just went off into the gravel. It was such a lazy, slow motion crash. I have no idea what I did there. I think I just slid, lost control and went out. And yeah, there I am again, going onto the gravel again. I think that McLaren was really keeping me out of trouble as much as it possibly could, even with my ineptitude behind the wheel in this particular lap. But here I am again in third place. I'm still chasing those two cars in front of me. They're a long way ahead of me, they really are. And I never really had any chance of catching them up. In fact, I even found new and unusual places to crash that I hadn't previously crashed throughout the entire 20 laps. But the other cars were like 26 seconds behind me, so I managed to recover there and get back on. I mean, at this point, I think my confidence was so shot, I was prepared to ask my chief crew to put a pair of stabilizers on the back of the car so that I could just get it across the finishing line and see the checkered flag. But without that, I still managed to finish. I nursed it round this final corner. You can see how nervous I am. Oh, please don't crash, please don't crash. And I come down the straight here towards the final checkered flag. I'm going to get third place. This is where I started on the grid, so I'm happy for that. That's the first race of this series, and I am in the points. And here are those points. I get 15 for that race because I was in place 3. I'm pleased with that. It's a good start. It's good to get some points for your first race. And with the first race completed, I can now either go straight into the second race or I can quit the sim and come back later. The same is of course true with all the other races, which can be completed at your leisure. Conclusion. And it really is as easy as that to set up a series using Championship mode in AMS2. Yes, it's a bit of work. Needs a bit of research if you want to accurately replicate a real series, and it is a bit frustrating when some tracks are not available, but overall it's actually a cool experience. I am now tempted to set up the 2024 GT4 European Series as much as I can. Looking at it now, there seems to be at least 2 tracks out of the 6 that are not available in AMS2. But that still means I can actually use my sim rig to race a real-life GT4 race before I view the race on TV, which should give me a greater insight into what the real-life drivers are going through, which for me raises my immersion with race sport immensely. For that reason alone, I think the Championship mode in AMS2 is worth experimenting with. Is it a replacement for career mode? No, not really. But while we are waiting for an actual career mode to land sometime in 2025, it's a pretty good area of AMS2 to dabble in, particularly if you want to use it to replicate a series of the past, or even one that has yet to race. In a future video, I will look at some of the third-party options that adds a sort of career mode to AMS2 and report back on which ones are worth your time. Until next time, race clean, and I will see you on track. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. Click the little bell icon if you want to be notified of any future videos.